got a container. A lot of people are expressing it's like getting a Christmas present early. They're
There's
very excited about their
more
new
interest than I
containers.
would have expected in the
Yeah.
trash cans, but yes, a lot of people are excited about them. So,
Lot of-
and they look good.
They do look good.
And we'll remind people, I've seen people marking the trash cans, but each trash can is serialized. So if they simply take a picture of that, they'll have proof that's their trash can. They don't necessarily need to put their number.
And we have a registry that matches to their address.
Yes, correct. We have a registry that matches to those, so we can identify the trash cans.
So they don't have to paint their name or address on the side of the
Please
can.
do not spray paint your
Yes.
container. This is it's a safety effort. It's also helping us organize how trash is being collected. And it's also a beautification because we're getting the trash off the streets. And so let's not trash up our trash containers, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But I
so,
noticed a lot
By
of people
painting,
are,
spray painting them. They're already registered to your address.
I know some people are putting the little stick-ons for their address. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, correct? I mean, it looks pretty neat. I saw several on Michigan
A
Road.
sticker or
Uh-huh.
something? Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
number
I would say
stickers.
as long as it looks neat, it's not a problem. Like I said, I've just been advising people to take a picture of your
Right.
serial number, and that's your proof of what it is. And those are molded into the can, so they're not gonna come off, even if someone paints over it, something like that.
Okay. Well,
Welcome
And
aboard.
Chris is very busy doing a lot of things other than trash. As you know, we've had very robust several weeks here with our events and keeping the city clean and beautiful during all of those events is also something you've been doing in partnership also with MPD to make sure it continues to be safe while we have literally tens of thousands of visitors in town. So thanks for all the work that you and Chief Scudder are doing too.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
right.
Please
Welcome
let me
aboard.
know if you need anything.
I would.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Speaking of Chief Scudder, Chief, anything you'd like to share with the board?
I don't have a whole lot. Our operations manager started last week, Jeff Reinierson. He's doing a great job so far. He's hit the ground running. He's working on policies and procedures. He's just reviewing all of our policies and working on some minor changes, and we're going to work on building some new policies. And
That's a new position at MPD.
Correct.
You want to maybe explain a little bit more detail what Jeff's going to be doing, since this is an administrative addition to our law enforcement and community policing efforts. So maybe describe a little bit more about what Jeff will be doing.
yeah, so as I already mentioned, he's going to work on policies and procedures, strategic planning for the department into the future, and basically any other thing that we can use to fill in his schedule or he's got an interest in working on. But the policies and the planning are going to be the biggest things.
How did the transition back to 8-hour shifts go pretty smoothly?
For most, it went pretty smooth. There's a few officers that wanted to stay on 12 hours, but I think they're adjusting
Yeah.
and they're seeing the benefits of the 8 hours. So.
Good. Thank you.
Chief, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Recruiting efforts going well?
Yes, we're taking applications currently, and we'll start another hiring process soon. We just want to build up the pool of applicants before we start doing the testing.
Great.
So,
How
Always.
did, Chief, with the weather conditions we had for Chautauqua, and all that affected the crowds and pretty much the whole weekend, but how did things go for MPD as far as the Chautauqua weekend, traffic
us,
situation?
yeah.
and
For us,
Second Street,
I think Second Street being open helped the traffic. This year was kind of tough to gauge that because of the weather. But we spent a lot of time developing a safety plan for traffic, and it seemed to work well. There's a few things we might change around for next year, but the plan seemed solid and it seemed to help. We had officers staged throughout the day at the non-lighted intersections to help pedestrians across. And then towards the end of the day, we moved officers to each of the lighted intersections on West Main to help get traffic out of town. So it seemed to help.
Having a good plan will help us execute well. The real test will be maybe next year when we have, or another event where we have a lot of weather. But
Yeah,
it did,
I'm gonna try to
as,
use this.
as Board Member Carlo was saying, it did, and what you were describing, it did help having that physical presence of the officers downtown, and particularly at those intersections for
Yes.
pedestrian safety.
Yeah, I think next year for Regatta, we'll roll out a similar plan for post-parade and post-fireworks, because that's always times when there's a lot of traffic congestion down there, so.
And this was the first year that Second Street remained opened, and
Yes.
I think that also contributed to alleviating some of the traffic on Main Street,
Absolutely.
getting people around. It's helpful.
I was
Anyway, good
asked
job all around.
if we could study the intersection at, West and Vaughn to put pedestrian walks across all four spots right there for safety.
Western Vaughn?
There-
There's already a stop sign here.
There's
at
a
Western
stop
Vaughn.
sign
There's a
there.
stop sign all
Yeah.
three ways, there's a pedestrian crosswalk on the,
Oh, on the
West
west
side.
side.
Right,
but we need one, you're saying one at the foot of
North and
West
south and
Street and
south.
then one over on the other side of.
yeah. If you can look at that,
Chris and I have already done a drive around town of areas where a little bit of paint will go a long way
Yes.
Right.
for pedestrian safety and visibility.
Yeah, I'm okay, I'm
Yeah.
a proponent of
Yeah.
anywhere we can put in a crosswalk to help people get across.
if you'd look at that and see what
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, anything
Thanks.
else?
No, anything else for Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate it.
Let's move into the new business. Invite Brian up for our water improvement project and anything else you'd like to add about water and sewer. Good morning.
Okay. We just have one SR off request today, L3 from Dave O'Meara Contracting for the water treatment plant works. It's dated 9/9/24. The total amount of the invoice was $135,969. The retainage amount for pay app L3 was $6,798 rounded. And then the pay app amount of $129,170.55, which we will round for the disbursement of L3 to $129,171. That's the only pay app I have today.
Good morning. Okay.
Well, I make a motion, we approve the, project SRF distribution request L-3.
I'll second Carl's motion.
Any discussion? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? Thank you. Brian, anything else to add on water and sewer? Just
Nope, still flowing.
still flowing. That's always good, right?
Good.
Next up, we have the general services agreement for engineering with Jacoby Toombs and Lands. I'll ask my Deputy Mayor McGee to explain what that involves. I'll give a little prelude first, though. As you know that, come on up to the podium there. We're several months into our transfer station modernization plan. And part of that included not only the rollout of the new containers to standardize how we collect the solid waste, also implementation of technology and making plant improvements. So this contract is related to that part of it, which are the plant improvements. Turn it over
Thank
to
you for taking the words right out of my mouth. This contract will be for the engineering services for the project the mayor just described. We are doing more than just improving that facility. We are putting a separate road in to the cemetery so that people can access that when the TSO is not open. There's a reconstruction of a parking lot back behind the facility, obviously structural beams underneath, covering the recycling bin. So there are some engineering needs to go along with it. It will also then, they'll prepare the bid specifications for the contractors that we want them to do and put the bid package together and manage us through the bid award process. So you'll see me come back and ask you to approve the bid award when we get those completed as well. So, and it is an up to amount contract, so it's basically an hourly rate. We put a number in of no more than up to 50,000. We are hoping to manage that to be quite a bit less than that, but never know what you're gonna get into when we start looking at things in depth. So, it is an up to $50,000 contract.
This will bring some much needed improvements to the building and the facilities up there. As you mentioned, also to create a separate access to the Underwood Cemetery that is back behind our transfer station. So this money is in our budget, and we need engineering services in order to migrate through the actual construction and the bidding and construction process. I'll Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve
Okay.
the contract then for the professional services.
I'll second Carl's motion.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Mindy, thank you. Now we'll move to the 2024-2025 contract with Salvation Army for winter warming shelter. And the board, you're probably familiar with this. We've done it every year. I think this is probably the 5th season that we've collaborated with Salvation Army to operate and offer a warming shelter in times when the overnight temperature is forecasted to be 32 degrees or less. We've had a great partnership with the Salvation Army to offer this service in conjunction also with Madison Police Department and the many volunteers who are working at the shelter all night long in order to give those who need a place to stay so they don't freeze to death, and also a warm meal, showers. We ourselves in North Madison Christian Church invested in the facility with shower and laundry facilities. So this is a MOU to get us into the next winter season.
Mayor, how's the volunteer situation worked out as far as getting the volunteers signed up, getting them trained, and
It's been mixed. Volunteers who are helping the Salvation Army and the City of Madison provide this service go through a safe from harm training. They also have to be willing to, commit, essentially staying up all night or part of the night to work a shift. I believe it takes a minimum of about 6 to 8 volunteers to operate the shelter on any given night. It's been mixed, honestly. We would appeal to the community if they're interested helping. Contact the Salvation Army. Now's the time to go through that training as we are heading into colder weather. I know there's a lot of people concerned about homeless in our community, and this is one way where you can help the one organization whose mission is to help those without permanent shelter during this inclement weather by volunteering or donating to the Salvation Army and helping make sure that there's adequate volunteers to provide this service. There have been many cold nights when there wasn't enough volunteers in order to open the shelter.
how about the attendance on the nights that the shelter is open?
Attendance on the night that shelter is open, I say probably average between 8, maybe around 8 to 10 people. And it's been as low as just a couple. That's the thing too, if it's just a couple, you'll still need the same amount of volunteers, particularly if you have men and women who have to be segregated. And there's a lot of work that goes into this, the screening aspect of it. There's also, as I mentioned, they're helping them with laundry, showers, food, and shelter, providing really core basic needs. And it takes volunteers to do that. But we're averaging, I'd say, around 8 or so on any given night.
Well, it's a much needed service. I'm glad that we're doing it.
Yeah.
You just don't have what happened in the past. We just want to do anything we can to prevent that again.
One of the requests this year, as Chief Scudder and I has met with the Salvation Army, was increased visits by MPD during the night, because there have been situations where there was some disorderly conduct there, or someone might have had a substance use issue or whatever. But having MPD also involved in this process and visiting there during the night adds a safety element to the shelter when it's operating. And I think that's also really critical to mention, is that there's a lot of needs that get wrapped around this community when they're there for the shelter. But you also have to take the safety of those who are staying there, those who are volunteering and working there, very important as well. But we do provide that service to them as well, and that's also embedded in our MOU.
I noticed even today when I came by, there's a gentleman sleeping out there beside the building this morning. he has a dog with him. What happens with the dog, the folks that do have a dog?
Not aware they allow animals,
Okay,
into the shelter.
I've seen that a couple of times. Like I said, you saw it this morning, there was a gentleman sweeping up there with his dog, so. Okay, might be something to ask.
Well, I'll move that we approve the 2024-2025 memorandum of understanding between the City of Madison and Salvation Army for the winter contingency emergency shelter at the Salvation Army.
I'll second your motion.
I have a second. Any discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we have a street closure request for the Indiana Historic Preservation Conference. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
Good.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, Austin. Welcome back to the Board of Public Works and Safety.
Yeah. So this request that's in front of you all is to close just one side of Broadway on Thursday, October 24th, to help support the Indiana State Preservation Conference that will be here during that time. Basically, what that Preservation Conference Committee, which is a local team of volunteers along with the state preservation team, said, hey, we're going to have about 300 plus people that will be dining on their own during lunchtime during that day. So Main Street's actually taken the responsibility to help inform the businesses that there will be an influx of people during that week and during that day where lunch won't be covered by the conference. So the committee came up with, let's get just 2 or 3 local food vendors to set up on Broadway during that time to help encourage some grab and go. We're also going to encourage them to shop a little bit during that time, so we're hoping that by closing just one part of Broadway, it encourages people to walk all the way to the west end. So that request is just that. We're still working on the vendors, but right now we have 2 locals. We have Troublemakers and Raj's Temptations of India. I'm trying to get one more just to make it worth it, and we will also be promoting to the community. So
Great.
that's the request.
Well, thanks for all the effort. You guys have been working on this conference planning for probably about a year. I attended the one in Muncie last year.
Yeah.
And now we're hosting it in Madison, and it is sold out. It's the largest attended conference in their history, and I think it's because of how much planning and preparation has gone into inviting and being the ambassadors of Madison while they're here. But also, what better place in Indiana could you go and hold a historic conference at than
It
the
has
most
not-
historic place in Indiana, which is Madison?
It has not been in Madison for, it's either 20 or 25 years. Which one is it, Jan? 20 years? I think it's actually 25 years.
Wow.
So we're hoping to really put a lot into this, and this is just a one-time request, one-time thing with this street closure too.
Yeah. I think it's great. I thought it was going to be for like a group picture. I was like, how are you ever going to get 300 people down at the fountain for a group picture?
That would be pretty great. Maybe we can still work that in there,
Might want to
but
throw that in there.
yeah.
Board, do you have any issues with this? If not, I'll.
I don't have any issue. Do you have a weather contingency, you know?
It's a great question. No, not at the moment. Right now, if
Eat
it
indoors?
doesn't happen, then we would say just stay home. If
Eat
this was a
indoors.
regular or a signature event, as far as the vendors goes, not for the attendees.
Right.
But for the vendors, we would say we would cancel it at this point for that time, just since it's a one-time event. If it was a signature event, we would obviously encourage or have some kind of rain backup plan. But right now, there's not one, since this is a one-time setup and
So
one-time
this is a
request.
Thursday, so we should have all of our restaurants open
Yes.
if people wanted to choose indoor. Everybody's going to be busy because,
Yes.
a few food trucks can't handle that many people.
Yeah.
But all the restaurants will be busy downtown too.
Yes, so we are actually, Main Street, we're compiling a list of all the restaurants with their addresses, and then there will be a small section that shows the temporary and food vendors that will be here too. But they'll get that at the beginning of the week so that after hours they can attend things. There's also lots of after hours workshops and gatherings that the conference will host. So they're going to have a full time here in Madison. We're pretty excited about it.
Would there
Be
be
great.
any tents or anything set up in that area for people who just want to dine outside?
We have just the picnic tables requested, but no tents or anything like that to cover the picnic tables. The only tents that we should have are Raj typically has a tent, with his, but he keeps it weighted down, same rules that we have for farmer's market. And Troublemakers Food Truck, I know that they've set up for several events within the city limits, so they should know what they need to do there. Like I said, we're trying to get one more local one. I'm not sure who that will be yet, but we'll have the same thing apply to them, but no other canopies.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the resolution 2024-48B.
I'll second Carl's motion.
Great conversation. Thanks for doing all you do for being a good ambassador for Madison. Any discussion, or comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Austin, you're up next.
Yep. My market manager is out on vacation right now, so I'm covering for this for her.
This is same thing as we've done in prior years, which is, I guess we should be reading these. A resolution 2024, I just noticed Joe's not here.
Yeah.
All right, let's read 48B.
Okay, you ready? Whereas there's been a request filed by Austin Sims on behalf of the Madison Main Street Program for a street closing for said group in connection with preserving historic places, Indiana Statewide Preservation Conference. They will be hosting on Thursday, October 24th, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the southbound lane of Broadway Street from the north side of Main Street to the south side of 3rd Street shall be closed from 11 a.m. to 2:45 p.m. on Thursday, October 24, 2024. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison that said street as closed shall be under the supervision and control of the Madison Main Street Program at the times noted above for the year 2024.
All right, that was approved, and now we're moving to 49B.
You want me to read this one before she speaks?
Yes, please.
Okay, so whereas there has been a request filed by Brittany DeMari on behalf of the Madison Main Street Program and Madison Farmers Market for street and sidewalk closings for said group in connection with the Madison Farmers Market to be held every Saturday from October 26, 2024 through December 28, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the following street and sidewalks shall be closed from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Saturday from October 26, 2024 through December 28, 2024. Number 1, southbound lane of Broadway Street from the north side of Main Street to the south side of 3rd Street. And number 2, sidewalk on the north side of Main Street and west side of Broadway Street between Main Street and 411 Broadway Street. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that said street and sidewalk as closed shall be under the supervision and control of the Madison Main Street Program and Madison Farmers Market at the times noted above for the year 2024.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Same hours, same thing. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about the farmer's market, because I love the fact that you do it year-round, so thank you for that.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned before, our market manager, Brittany, is away on vacation this week. We do allow her to do that. So, I'm covering this morning, just with the same requests that we submit annually, for winter market. You'll notice that typically our past requests went through, April with this winter request of 2025. But we still have a couple things in the air that we're trying to plan out, so we chose just to include the end of this year. And we'll be coming back with another request, most likely by the end of the year, beginning of next year. So right now, farmers market, we're at that time where some of the vendors still have some good winter greens that are starting to come up and end of year summer greens. It's been really great. This has been Brittany's first summer. She's been taking a lot of it straight on. Couldn't ask for a better person to take all of that in for just never having done that before, and she's done a really great job. So I'm just passing along the information, and if you guys haven't gotten to come out yet, we hope you come see us on Saturday morning.
The, number 2 item, the sidewalk, is that also, we did that same thing last year?
Yeah,
I couldn't remember
it's the
that.
sidewalk from the corner down to the church.
Down
on
to the
that-
church, okay.
on that
Yes,
west
and
side.
so why we do that is, when there's days when it rains, sleets sideways, we
Okay.
might get, some of the vendors will still, the meat, like vendors, they choose to stay outside still. So they like to be on that sidewalk in front of the church and kind of that direction to help catch people's eyes out there so that everyone's not just in the church and hidden. So they'll stand out there and they don't care if it's negative 10 degrees outside. So that's why we include
The
that.
sidewalk will still be open for handicap and all that kind of.
Yes,
Great
yeah,
service for the community.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you.
I'll move that we approve Resolution 2024-49B.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Awesome,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Okay, we'll move on to our last resolution.
Whereas there has been a request filed by Joel Storm and Charlie Rolfing. Okay, on behalf of the Madison Music Movement for a street closing in conjunction with the Starving Artist Avenue Artistry to be held on Saturday, October 19th, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that Central Avenue between Main Street and on the north side of the entrance/exit to the city parking lot shall be closed on Saturday, October 19th, 2024, from 10:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Be it further resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that said street, as closed, shall be under the supervision and control of Madison Music Movement at the times noted above for the year 2024.
10:30 to 2:30. Anybody here from the Madison Music Movement to talk about this proposed event? I don't know a whole lot about it myself.
Is there anything else going on that weekend?
That is not, I don't believe there's anything else going on that weekend. I believe it has to do, well, it said here, the Starving Artist, so it must be a musical event in that portion of the street that was described here. If the board so wishes, we could approve it on the condition that staff is discussing the event and we have an event safety plan for the event.
Well, since it falls before our next meeting,
Yes.
you know, kind of ties our hands a little bit.
We need to clarify that, you know, only in certain instances, you know, do we want to approve a resolution without representation here? If there had been a city staff person here, we could have done it that way, but if the board doesn't mind, I'll move that we conditionally approve Resolution 2024-50B with the condition that city staff communicates with councilperson Joel Storm and Madison Music Movement Board Charlie Rolfing to capture the event safety plans for the event to be held on Saturday, October 19th.
Second Mayor's motion.
Good. Any discussion? Yes.
I just say emphasize to them in the communication that, you know, situation like this, that we do need representation at the meeting.
Right.
If, you know,
Unless it's,
if they want to
there
do
are
this again.
instances
so.
where we, like with the farmer's market, we do that every year. We're
Yeah.
very familiar with that event and others. This is a new event. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to be exciting. And,
I mean, since it's only half a block, you know,
have a walk for a
But-
few hours. It should be
yeah,
okay.
so.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Comments and questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the nuisance and unsafe structure update. While he is prepping, we'll say that this month is Code Enforcement Appreciation Month, so I appreciate those who are involved in making Madison safe and beautiful with the focus on nuisance enforcement and correcting unsafe structures. So Brian Shaw and Dewey O'Neill, thank you both for what you do there. And Dewey is going to give us an overview of what our blight elimination and code enforcement efforts have been to date.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been here, so good to see everyone. Okay, Mindy, let's get started. Let's start with just the nuisance cases by violation. And I provided the 2022, 2023 numbers, and then comparing year-to-date so far. We're actually at 271 as of this morning, total cases this year. So I would expect, although, October, November, December slows down a little bit for grass and weed cases, I would expect we will probably hit the 300 plus mark again this year for nuisance cases. You can see the top, inoperable, disused. I've put the word disused in there this year because the ordinance actually does say inoperable and/or disused vehicles. So I expect that number to increase, and Chief Scudder and I are working together on the vehicle situation. So I'm expecting that number to grow, certainly by year end, and next year will be quite a bit as well.
It's amazing we have that many, what we consider kind of abandoned vehicles across our community.
They just keep popping up, don't they?
Amazing.
They're just, yeah, it is every week, they keep popping up, so. And grass and weeds, you can see, we're right on par with last year. I think the first year I was probably a little bit eager or something there with such a large number, but trying to keep my job at that point, prove myself, so.
I can tell you, or assure you, we're not gonna run out of work to do here.
Yeah, no, agreed. I have seen a marked increase in the unclean, disorderly premises, and we'll go through some photos and pictures here in a little bit, but I'm seeing, whether it's just experience on my part or cracking down a little bit more, I guess, or, but that seems to be an issue for whatever reason, so.
You talking about the unclean premise?
Yeah.
The reason is people aren't taking care of their property, and if they would, then we'd have a little less to do, or we could prioritize it such that it's making impacts otherwise. But
Yes.
we have literally millions of people come through our community each year, and one of the things they remark on the most is how beautiful our community is, and that's because we're attacking the blight and the unclean properties and the abandoned vehicles and the dilapidated structures that have been, sitting there for decades.
Right.
And we're having to do that because the property owners aren't doing it. So it's kind of like with the traffic discussion we always have. It's not our fault that the drivers are not exerting good behavior. We're doing the best that we can to enforce it, but it is a big problem because of the behavior of the property owners or the behavior of the person behind a car, steering wheel. So.
Yep.
But you can see the impact it is making, and that is, from a public policy perspective, huge benefit for the city of Madison to invest in these resources with you and Brian.
Yep. And then the following, the remaining categories: neglected properties, trash, other really is things like random furniture or tires on the street, or really improperly discarded furniture. I see that a lot. I'm beginning to see a lot more appliances as well. So that's kind of what that category is. But I expect we'll end up around the 300 plus mark by year's end with nuisance cases. So, thoughts on that? Okay, Minnie?
Well, the only thought I would just add is that, so you started your efforts here in 2022?
January 3rd, was my first day of work, and you folks, I stood before you that next meeting, so yeah.
And in less than 3 years now, 3 full years, how many cases have you addressed in those 3 years?
1,050.
1,050.
Closing in on, it'll be 1,100 by the end of the year, so.
Just a representation of how much there is to do. But anyway, keep going, Dewey. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for the job. Yeah, so just some visual representation of what I was explaining with the cases. This is something that I would, so you see a vehicle there as well, private property vehicle. We consider that disused or abandoned or inoperable, but also, that's a unclean, disorderly premises. That's what that is. Okay, Mindy? Similar here. I mean, just these two properties are just a few blocks apart. I'm not sure what's happening in that area, but this is actually a success story. This was cleaned up very well. There's still some issue there, but it looks much better than that today. Again, same area, just clutter. Okay, Mindy. Here's just examples of some of the abandoned vehicles. Oak Hill area, the other two are downtown. I thought you'd get a kick out of this one. So there's a sofa that's up near the movie theater, some random trash. Chief actually alerted me to this one, I guess it was. He's driving down, what is it, Dugan Hollow? Is that what that is?
Dugan Hollow.
So I had Mr. Shaw stand next to it so, to show us the height of that grass. I don't know how I missed it, but Nicole said there's one of me, so thank you for that. But okay, let's talk about unsafe structures. This really hasn't changed since we last addressed you. I mean, there's been a couple more, but roughly we're at a 75-25% abatement by owner versus open cases still. We are working on identifying, we certainly still have unsafe structures, but many of those now we will move into what's more of a vacant or abandoned, possibly per the UBL. That one of the criteria, and Brian can speak to it more, is simply if it's been vacant for 6 months or longer, we consider that an unsafe structure. And although it's there, we're wrestling with, the other 30 are more structurally impaired to some extent, and we'll look at those here in a second. These are in no particular order, but the next 4 or 5 or 6 are what we now consider. We've worked on prioritizing the worst case scenarios, and we're dealing with those. We'll talk about some demos here in a second. But no particular order, the next few slides are what we consider to be priorities for us at this point on unsafe structures. You wouldn't know by looking, so the front, the picture on the left, you wouldn't really know anything's happening there. This is right across from Dr. Butler's, right at the corner there, First Financial and whatnot. Go to the next slide, Mindy. This is the back side of the structure. It looks almost like, we called it like a war zone from Saving Private Ryan or something. It looked, it's quite bad, and I can have, if you have questions, Brian can explain some of what our concerns are there. One of them is, probably should have zoomed in on a little bit, but you can see a grate, right, that's open to the cellar. We're concerned about that, but there's other issues there as well. This is one of our inhabited unsafe structures. We've talked about this many times, but it has moved up the list as we took care of some other ones. This is on the west end of town, right by Craigmont there. Okay, Mindy. We believe this is 307 Hendrick Street. I think we've talked about this too, but we believe this probably is the #1 priority on the hilltop. I don't know if Chief can share. We've had a number of neighbors approach us and talk about what's happening there. And I'll let Brian talk to the structure's integrity, but I think there's other issues, non-nuisance, although there's a number of nuisance issues here, has been for the 3 years I've been here. But there may be other activity there too. Not sure if you want to hear about those, but, okay, Mindy. This is a structure that does have a demo permit issued on it. And Brian can talk to this as well. You can see the roof line, how it's collapsing near the chimney there. Again, looking at it from that, where the car is, you really wouldn't suggest anything is wrong with it. We did investigate behind it in the alleyway and next to, there's new or a revitalized home next to it, right? A rehabilitated home. And we investigated that, and it is completely open to the elements and structurally unsound. Okay, Mindy. This is Walnut Street, towards the end near the Moody Park area. There has been a new tarp placed over this, although that doesn't negate or take away the fact that it is considered unsafe. That's on the north, headed north on Walnut. Okay, Mindy. Another inhabited structure as you're leaving town on Park Avenue. We are concerned about this from a fire safety standpoint, although Brian can talk more to that. And the next slide, I think, shows some of the issues here we have with that. So, but that's the second inhabited unsafe structure we have. Some of these pics we'll get you. This is, I figured I'd give a Moody Park update, although Mr. Jenner isn't here today. Perhaps the mayor can speak as well. We're still in the case with Moody Park. We'll go to a timeline. Okay, Mindy. We've talked about the timeline here a number of times. The new development on the next slide, Mindy, is that as of September 20th, the order was issued denying plaintiff's motion for summary judgment, and I wasn't certain if a case.
If you could go back one slide, and
Had
we'll
been
just
set?
talk about the
Sure.
beginning point was June of 2021. We had the flood. There was damage then, and so this particular case has been going on since the spring of 2022. Then it
Yeah.
became a legal matter in March of 2023 when we had a hearing here with the Board of Public Works and Safety and determined it unsafe and ordered the abatement. So here we are now in October of 2024, and as it shows there, September 20th, we are being sued by the Cunninghams. They are trying to essentially get our orders denied. That failed. The court had denied their request for summary judgment. The next thing will now be a trial.
Yes.
And so this will continue to drag out for quite a few more months or year. And all of this is about trying to create safe living conditions and eliminate or abate nuisance and unsafe structures in that trailer park that's been ongoing for decades.
We don't know a date yet,
A
possibly.
date has not been set for a trial, so
Right.
it will go to a trial
Gotcha.
next, unless there's a settlement.
Sure.
The property you had there on Park Avenue, you said someone is living in that.
Yes.
Have you talked to them, or do they have any?
I have personally, yes. I don't know that Brian and I have met them since his coming on board. Yes, I've been inside. They invited us in. Previous building inspector and I were invited in. But yes,
It can't be safe inside, can it?
there is vegetation inside. At that time, I can't speak right now, but
We have,
Yeah.
so what's the universe of our unsafe structures that you're currently working?
so there are, there's 30-ish that we consider structurally, in some degree, structurally unsafe. And then there's the other 100 or so that, although per the UBL, one of the criteria, because it has been vacant for 6 months or longer, we consider that is technically considered unsafe per the UBL. So to answer your question, I would say,
picture on the right, I mean, is he operating is that a wood stove? Is that smoke coming out of the chimney?
Looks like.
And yes, and so and I can't speak to the fire aspects of this,
Right.
but, so you've got a tarp there, or a canvas, or
Yeah,
with possible embers, right, being ejected. I mean, you gentlemen are
right.
firefighters.
That's the reason I was real concerned with that.
Yeah.
Just looking at the tax information on that property, one of the two owners, listed is deceased on this Park Avenue property, so.
My understanding is being sold on contract now, right?
But it could, yeah,
Okay,
just what the county records were showing.
sure. Yeah,
There's so much renovation going on south of these properties
Yes,
on First Street.
yeah.
well, yeah, there's,
A lot of money being spent
Invested down there.
on that,
there's two
on
or
First
three.
Street, right
yeah.
behind us.
New construction and
Right,
yeah.
renovation, yeah.
There's two or three, and I will say two in particular. There's there's an outbuilding, next to this. Then there's another one on Ferry or Fillmore.
Fillmore Alley.
And I have a success story of one that's
Good.
on Ferry Street. So it's nice to see that area.
Yeah, it is.
It did not look that way 3 years ago when I started,
No.
that's for sure. So,
Nice looking place.
okay, Minnie. Okay, so demo update. We are still working through this. I'll take you through this, started in December 22, so this has been a two-year issue. We've had conversation here, I'm not sure exactly where we're at, I'm apologizing. Minnie, you can go to the next slide. I'll just take you through the way it looked, that's January of this year. And then the next slide, Mindy.
I know it's not getting better.
No,
That's the interesting thing about dilapidated buildings. They don't get better over time.
no. Someone was thinking that maybe someone on high would help with the structure there with the cross, maybe, I'm not sure, but I don't know what they're trying to do there, Brian can share. And then this is just on Friday, I took these pictures, so, yeah, it's not getting better. All right, this was an issue we had for some time. In fact, I think not the previous building inspector, but the one prior, he and I first looked at this. And it was an issue, you wouldn't really know it's there. Lafayette Street is kind of down the hill from the church there, but Mindy, next one. It's not perfect. We don't like that he hasn't finished the removal of the rubble, but we don't consider it, at least it might be an unsafe premises, but the structure is gone. So, success story here too. I think Walnut Street looked like that for worse than that for a while. Mindy, this isn't the most recent picture, but the dumpster is gone. He is leveling out the grade, if I'm not mistaken on that. So we're happy with the efforts there.
I got a question about the Walnut Street, Dewey.
Sure, please.
The outbuildings in the back,
Yes.
has there been any conversation on those? I mean, I haven't walked back to look at them, but from the street, they don't look real good, so.
No, to be honest, we haven't approached him on those. The outbuildings are, although the one, on the alleyway that's gonna fall in on itself, that's gonna hurt someone, we haven't really, attacked isn't the right word. What am I looking for? We really haven't,
I mean, this guy's cooperated, but he's kind of doing it at his own pace. He's using his own time and labor to
yeah,
take care of this.
Yeah.
So it's a little slower than you went out and hired,
Yeah.
backhoe and all that. This guy is cooperating with you folks on
he is. No, yeah, he is. So, we will talk with him about those. Okay, let's end on a good note. All right, this is a property at the foot of Banta. There's railroad tracks that come across there. 2050 Wood Street, maybe not the worst picture, but I think the next picture will show you the transformation that happened there. We are very happy with how that turned out. Still for sale, too. So,
Very nice.
here's the property down on Ferry Street near the campgrounds. Again, probably not the worst picture. I did have nuisance cases there quite a bit, grass, different things. But the next picture really,
It's in prime real estate too,
yeah,
right on the river, near the river.
yep. Really happy with that. And this is just a random, we had this, this was just as you get to the top of Michigan Hill, to the right, there's a street called Dell. This is at the corner of that. It's actually a Michigan Road address, but those vehicles had been there for quite some time. And Mindy, the next slide, we got those removed, so
Good.
some success there.
Was that the same owner or a different owner?
Same.
Same, we did, good job.
And I think that's, I hit my head earlier. I wasn't sure I was gonna make it through, so
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Glad you made it. There's many more examples you could have shared with us.
Yeah,
Different levels of condition, and the good news is, I think you stated that around 75% are abated by the property owner,
yes,
and that's the outcome that we're looking for. When it's abated by the city, it costs us tens of thousands of dollars, and in some instances, when the owner won't let the city abate it, it costs us tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to enforce it. And many of those drag out and consume a lot of time and resources over a very long period. We have a couple of lawsuits active right now that deal with an order by the Board of Public Works, or in the case of Lanther Winery, it's dealing with an order by the Historic District Board of Review relative to the placement down there of containers without a certificate of appropriateness. That's been adjudicated, but back in court, so we'll just continue to work very hard for the city of Madison, because it makes such a tremendous difference. If we neglect it, like had often been done in the past, our neighborhoods fall into disinvestment and more crime, lower property values, lower quality of life, and we've been working very hard the last 5 years to reverse that, and it's working. So
Yes.
keep up the good job that you're doing.
really proud of all the work that we're doing, and you folks, thank you very much. Now,
Dewey, I've got a question.
I've got an answer.
The demolition at 1003 West First Street,
Yes, sir.
you said a demolition permit had been issued, is
It
it?
has. Yep.
Yeah, so I spoke with Rod with CDAM, and it's even under contract. They're waiting for Centerpoint to come shut the gas off, and they said they've been waiting a long time. And that was, 3 weeks ago, and they still haven't come out and completed that yet.
I guess my question is, with the demolition and any historical significance of that building, has that, I guess, has it been cleared that,
Well,
I mean, we don't want to, we've had issues in the past of
sure.
demolition and then finding out kind of at the 11th hour that, well, this structure has historical significance, and
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to avoid is that same situation here,
Brian's
I
authority.
mean, we don't want to
through-
tear down something that,
Sure. Brian's authority through the UBL allows him, if he deems something unsafe, then it overrides any historical significance to that structure. So we don't, as we talk about in here, clean, safe is what we're trying to do, right? Safe. So yeah, Brian's, I didn't mean to speak for you, but
No.
his authority through that UBL allows him, if deemed unsafe, the historical significance is overlooked, I guess is the right word. So, good
yeah, I
question.
just want to make sure that all avenues have been checked out, and
What was the question?
the demolition of 1003 West First Street, to make sure that any historical significance of that structure has been checked out.
Yeah, it is, I just looked it up. It is listed as contributing, but it's not significant to the district. But they are right that, our priority is safe. And since it's been deemed unsafe, it doesn't have to go through the board, but we'll alert them that it is gonna come down. That's been our practice, since I've been here.
Yeah, it's been working too.
Safety does kind of avoid supersede an ordinance like that.
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep up the good work. Thank you, guys.
Whoever the guy, Carl Huggins, he owns Central Florida.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's the owner. Yeah. Okay, thank you, guys. Moving on, we'll move to PACE program and wrap up.
A couple of midpoints, an extension, and a couple of finals for you. So we'll start with the midpoints. The first one is for Springdale Cemetery at 600 West 5th Street. This is a dilapidated structure. They're working on windows, doors, some foundation work, and drainage work. You can see some of the work that's already started. They're slowly working through the windows. You can see one that's been completed there and one that's in progress. So they finished 2 windows, 4 frames, and the drainage work. So they're asking for the half disbursement of $12,500.
Building looks a lot nicer since they cleaned it.
Yes, yep.
It really looks good.
It looks great. Wow, look at that glass.
Yeah. And they've actually went an extra step and they've put a protective layer of plexiglass over it with the little dots on the corners are vents to let air to and from the glass. So it's really going to protect it in the long run.
Are they also asking for an extension on the same property?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh, you want to do them separately? Okay.
Yep. Okay, Mindy. And then the second midpoint is for one of our dangerous buildings grants at 308 Elm Street. This building was devastated by fire, as you can see there. They've completely removed it. The site is still secured with a fence, but they have received their building permit to build a new home there. So they're asking for the disbursement of half, which is $5,000.
And what's the trigger for the disbursements?
They have to start construction on the dangerous buildings. They have to be in the process of the construction before we can release full amount.
Okay.
So she wanted to get at least half before they started work.
That's, I'm really happy they're rebuilding there on Elm Street. It's a missing spot, so to speak,
Yes.
without the structure there. Okay, we take these, is it just the 2?
Yes.
I'll move that we approve the PACE midpoints for 308 Elm Street and 600 West 5th Street.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
Any discussion? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Move on to extensions.
Yes, just the one extension, that Carl mentioned, Springdale Cemetery is asking for a 5-month extension. This would make their new deadline as June 30th, 2025. They have already received a 12-month extension. One of the things that we added for the 2025 program was to allow dilapidated structures to get a longer timeline, because a lot of work goes into them. So I'm asking the board to take that into consideration if you would like to approve this extension.
Well, and then this being in its own little neighborhood down there, it's,
Yeah. The extension request is because they're having a lot of specialty work done, and that work takes longer than the
Maybe.
traditional just replacing windows.
The stained glass and the windows are hugely expensive and time-consuming to
Yes.
reconstruct.
I make a motion that we approve the PACE extension for 600 West 5th Street.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. And we'll do a final.
Yep, 2 finals for you. First, 803 East Second Street, you can see the before pictures of this dilapidated structures where they were missing windows in the bedrooms. The door was pretty deteriorated. And then you can see now it's got full new windows on all the sides, new door and storm door. So they're asking for the final disbursement of $7,483.57.
On that particular structure, is this one that they found to have, brick underneath the
Yes,
siding?
that's why it's not been painted, because they're securing the funds to take the aluminum siding off and tuck point the brick underneath.
It'll look really different when that happens.
Yes.
Wow, it'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
Traditionally, we would have required it to be painted,
Yeah.
but given that information, it wasn't worth wasting the money.
End result.
And the next one is a rehabilitation grant at 518 East Second Street. This work included windows and storm windows. So you can see a couple of the before there and then after. So they replaced the non-historic windows on the rear addition and then added storm windows to preserve the historic windows on the front. And it is doing a great job. So they're asking for the full disbursement of $7,500.
Looks great too. I'll move that we approve the PACE finals for 518 East Second, 803 East Second.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
Any discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then while I have
Another-
the podium, I just wanted to note that we have distributed the 2025 program guidelines and applications. So we're already accepting applications for the first round in 2025. That deadline is December 2nd.
And we had a very robust 2024
Yes.
on top of the prior years, and it's doing the work that we intended, which is preservation as well as we've talked about, improving the revitalization efforts of every neighborhood in our community. And it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for those property owners. So this is one thing that's working really collaboratively
Yes.
with the property owners who are making a substantial investment in Madison and in their properties. Unlike code enforcement, we're making an investment to try to force somebody to do something. This is awesome program.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Moving on, I will delay my mayor's comments because I know there are others here. So we'll turn over, I think, Brian, I got a text message that, are there representatives here from the Presbyterian Church that want to speak? Yeah, we can go ahead and listen to them. Yeah, be happy to.
No way, let's go up. Don't blame them.
Good morning, or maybe good afternoon by now. It is.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Josh Housley with Madison Presbyterian Church, Buildings and Grounds Chairman. And we made an application for a curb cut in front of our church. We have, like most churches, several elderly people, and we're trying to make the church more accessible for everybody. Right now, if you take a look at our church, we have several elderly people. The way they get to the sidewalk is they come up to the hood of their car, race like this, and step up on the sidewalk to get into our church. And on Mondays, I bring a lady that's kind of confined to a wheelchair to prayer meetings. And if the parking spaces are full, I got to take her clear down to First Avenue, bring her up to the church and get in like that. Now, it's not bad weather like this, but if it's raining or snowing, it's very difficult. So we're trying to make the church more accessible for everybody. So this is why I would like to have this curb cut for handicaps approved.
And I'm sorry, was your first name Josh?
Josh, right.
Yes, thank you. I know that you've applied for curb cut, and I think what we were trying to do is, navigate it into the Board of Public Works and Safety and get it on our agenda.
Right.
Because I believe when, we were first made aware, it started out as handicap parking, and it's a bigger construction project than just
Yes.
posting the traditional signs restricting the parking for handicap. So I think that I've had multiple conversations, and I know that Keith and Bill are back there. I've had
Right.
some good conversations with them too. I'm not opposed to what the intentions are. We were just trying to finalize the plans so that the Board of Public Works and Safety, as well as, the community and any of the neighbors there, they'd understand exactly how the parking was being restricted, what structure was being built on Broadway Street, how it was going to improve accessibility and also comply with accessibility and ADA guidelines. And the reason, Josh, we were having those type of conversations is because it's public space.
I understand and
And that's why
appreciate
we
it
were,
there.
that's
Right.
why we were trying to navigate it through that more formal process and get the permits issued that way.
Okay.
But we've not seen an application to the Board of Public Works and Safety yet for those things. I think that you might have just applied for a curb cut.
Can I
Yeah.
ask what?
Sure, yeah.
P&Z up there?
Yeah, and just clarify, happy you're doing it. Thank you for making that investment. Seems like maybe it's just a bigger project than what was initially discussed.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Keith
Hey.
Bills with,
Good morning,
can
Keith.
you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've been on a mic. But what I got is I got a little bit of drawings for you guys to look at, in
Okay.
detail. I know Mr. Mayor, you was more in favor of the ramp.
Okay.
You want another, would you like another copy?
Do you have three?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that'll work.
And if you notice, I shot some grade on the street. There's quite a bit of slope from the center of the road to the gutter pan. And they get quite a bit of water in that gutter, but it does flow okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have to come out as far into the parking area as I originally anticipated.
So it looks like 4 feet
Yes, sir.
from the
4 feet's all
curb.
we're gonna need with a handicap, what they call a handicap grate that will go with the gutter line running north to south. That will handle the flow of the water. It's approximately about 42% bigger than the grate that's north of that runs south of 3rd Street and Jefferson,
Okay.
adjacent on that corner.
Now, is this great, is it gonna be a solid piece of,
Yeah, it'll be,
Oh.
what it'll be is it'll be basically 24 inches wide. And then that area, I'll notch out in the concrete where that grate sits down in there. Now, it won't be your typical grate. It'll be a handicap grate with traction control on top of it.
I know some of you don't wanna have too big a hose because of high heels and this and that and the other.
Yeah, it won't have any hose like
Okay.
that. It'll be where you can walk across it.
Okay.
And the sidewalk itself, you're actually not gonna be cutting into the sidewalk other than attaching this ramp to the curb. So like before, we were talking about kind of sloping, having to slope a panel or two out of that sidewalk, and I think you had indicated that that didn't need to happen now if you went with this type of structure.
Yeah, because we was gonna have to, even though the sidewalk is 16 foot wide there at Broadway, it's a nice walkway, because there's a lot of events on that street.
Yeah.
So I felt like taking up 75% of the sidewalk was gonna be unnecessary and more of a, safety issue for the public walking north and south from 3rd Street to the events. So my honest opinion, the prints I gave you is probably the best application for that spot on Broadway.
And this is all ADA compliant as far
Yeah,
as the
you gotta be
grade and
88,
all that
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, we'll keep the bottom at 1% both ways, and we'll keep it way under an inch per foot on our, walk path.
So, thank you for this. This is really clear, I think, and I'm a little more familiar with it because I was down there and you were able to show me what you were intending to do. That area from Second Street down to First Street, I think there was some mention about that being restriped and essentially reframing up the parking stalls. And is this still gonna restrict the spots on each side of it?
I think what they're gonna do, I wasn't a whole lot involved in that. Dad
Okay.
can probably chime in on that a little better than I can, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, they were gonna make the spots a little smaller.
Yeah, they're 12
Right.
foot now, they're gonna make them to 10. 10's code on the parking, so that'll pick up several spots through there.
And are you proposing that the 3 spots associated with this. So you'll block off a spot in the center. And then will there be a handicap spot on each side where it's restricted for handicap use only?
Yeah,
Okay.
just till a certain time of the day.
Oh, well,
Well, probably
that's gonna be a little
24 hours
confusing.
day.
it's, you know, another way to look at it, just for clarity purposes, is, there's gonna be 3 parking stalls that are currently unrestricted, that are gonna become fully restricted, meaning they're restricted for either a handicap access or a handicap parking. And that handicap parking will, I'm assuming a traditional one is, you have to have a handicap, placard in your car in order to park there.
Which, you look at the festivals down there, where you have the car show and different things, the handicap accessibility close to the main gate would actually, I think,
Might help.
help the public by having those there. Even though church isn't going on, it still will be restricted to handicap parking. So I think it will help with several events that goes on in the Broadway area, plus maybe Crystal Beach. So add the views, not gonna hurt.
And I would just ask maybe, my streets and building and planning, just to confirm 10 feet width on the parking stall is satisfactory. And, if you did that, you probably, it'll certainly abate the loss of 3 spaces.
Right.
And you might get 1 back, but you have to just measure out that area to maximize the parking in it.
I think it figures 2.
Does it 2 back? Okay.
Josh asked a question, on the handicap parking. Can we just stripe that area, or does the city want some signs put up right there? It's not an issue, but
What works best?
Well, I think it's
I like the
required.
idea of just striping it, but I don't know if that, I'll have to ask my chief to chime in, because we're talking about the enforcement of it. There's no question about it, because you could see there's a sign, and do they have the thing in their car versus is it restricted? And are you opposed to placing the signs up there to make it clear? Okay. And I'm with them. The more I've learned about this, there's no handicap at all until you maybe get down near the school. I'm not sure there's any on the opposite side, except unless you get down to Crystal Beach.
Right.
And it's a very wide street with lots of traffic on it, parked traffic, there in the middle of the street, as well as on the curbside. So I think it'll be a good thing.
now, is the city of Madison, we still doing stuff for Halloween down there? I believe?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's
It'll
good
be
to know.
Well, it'll be at a Bicentennial Park.
That's what I figured.
Yes, we'll be right around there. They won't do it at the gym. Whether it's a harvest thing, and it's supposed to be at Bicentennial. When do you plan on starting?
Couple weeks probably.
Yeah.
Tentatively.
And you've applied for excavation permit for the work you're doing on the sidewalk? That'll be the next thing, I guess, with Brian, and these plans will be attached to it.
No, I just wanted to wait till the meeting first here. And
Okay.
then kind of approach everything, 811 and all that.
Okay.
Get with Nicole on the excavating.
Do we, any cost to the city on this? No.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the construction, subject to the excavation permit process of this accessibility ramp on Broadway Street in front of Presbyterian Church, as it's laid out here, and you can work out the details with building and planning and the streets.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Has our new streets person
back there,
reviewed, has he had an opportunity to review this?
So,
And,
became aware of it last week. I have not, and I would like the chance to review
Yep.
it and provide some quick feedback. But I can do that today or tomorrow.
I mean, personally, I would feel comfortable
Yeah.
with you reviewing, discussing it with these members, and, I mean, to me, this falls in your category,
I'll work with Brian and we'll make sure that
so.
the city is satisfied that we've covered all our bases.
I mean, I'm in support, but I still think, you need to be 100% involved in this, since it's street department, issues, so. So,
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Any more discussion or comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you
Mayor.
guys, thank you
board
guys for
members.
the investment you're making there. That's gonna help everybody out. Do you need any of this back, or do you have other copies?
We got this. Thank you.
And we'll make sure we get one for the
Thanks, guys.
record. Pass that down to Shirley, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any public comments here? We'll go ahead with public comments before mayor's comments, because that, sir, I think you've been waiting all morning as well for a chance to speak.
I've got two or three different subjects I want to bring up.
Yeah, if you go in your name and address, sir, and we'll,
Oh, I'm Robert Lofton, 313 Hendrick Street, Madison. My first one is the house that Brian and Dewey's been trying to help me with up there on Hendrick Street, which is 307.
okay.
It's right next door to me. I've been putting up with this for over 10 years. And I have some pictures I want you to see.
Yeah, please do.
The other board members have already seen them.
Okay.
Because Dewey showed you a picture of the front of the house. Well, I have a neighbor that he tries out lawnmowers, so he goes over there and mows this yard every now and then in the front. But here's what I'm dealing with. That's the backside.
And what side do you live on, Mr. Lofton? You
I
live
live-
over here or right here?
I
On this
live
side or
over
here? Okay.
And I usually try to
Yeah,
mow.
we'll ask you to go back to the podium there in a minute, as soon as we get your pictures. That way we can
Is that
capture this testimony on.
All right.
Is that utility shed on the 307 property that's in the picture?
The utility shed, is that on the property, Mr. Lofton?
Excuse me?
This white utility shed, is that on the property?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's several trees,
See those?
falling limbs all over that property. Basically, Brian and Dewey, like I said, has been very helpful, at least trying to keep the place mowed. I have to call them about once a month, tell them, help, needs to be mowed. But they're limited on where they can go with this property. Supposedly, the owners of that property is deceased. And therefore, they can't, who you gonna call? Now, what I was asking was, all right, somebody has to be paying the taxes on that, or it'd be up for a tax sale. But neither one of them could tell me who that property, or who's paying the taxes. But, so, if somebody else is paying the taxes, do I have to wait for them to die before the city can do something about it? Where do we go? I mean, I don't understand. It could be condemned. It should have to be boarded up or something. I've got last year, I think 2 times last winter, we had homeless moved in up there and had to call the police. And this year, they've already been up there 1 time. As the weather gets colder, I'm assuming they'll go right back in there. But there's a dead tree caved in the roof. I've never been in the property, but one of my neighbors has, and he said it's a total, you know what, the ceiling's falling in, the insulation's falling down, the roof floor's starting to rot. They've got piled up with furniture and clothes and whatnot stored in there. So I'm just trying to figure out what do I need to do next?
That's a very good question. I'm gonna ask Dewey and Brian to respond.
Sure. So our jurisdiction, of course, doesn't go inside the property.
Right.
So we've had an abatement, you know, a kind of an ebb and flow. We've said to clean, well, we're taking care of the nuisance stuff, because they typically don't. But from the unsafe standpoint, they did seal it for a second, then.
Okay, let's pause there for a second. So you've made contact with a property owner
I
or
have
representative of the estate who owns the
Nieces.
property?
No, the daughter.
Oh, it's the daughter, sorry. Yeah.
No, I have spoken to, previous building inspector, and I met with the daughter of the deceased, the Schmid-Laps, I believe is their name, if I'm not mistaken.
Glenn,
Uh,
the person that built the house was Glenn Smidlap. He passed away several years ago. His son was like power of attorney, I believe his was also Glenn, he passed away. So now I believe there's a daughter and another son. Roger, that's the only members of the family left.
We had an appointment 6 months ago with the daughter and her husband that they failed to show. Because we certainly were aware of this, we're there all the time.
Like I said, they've been very helpful for us.
So,
Yep.
you know, have we, you know, Brian can order the ceiling of the structure, as I don't believe it's itself unsafe from a structural standpoint. Is that how you speak to that? I don't know.
Yes, it's full mold,
Standing water.
the abatement really needs to be, I mean, it can be abated without demo, but after this winter, that it'll have to be demoed.
Can I interrupt just?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
He spoke of having it boarded up. Last summer, I don't know which one of them did it, but they supposedly told them to board it up. And what they done was took one of the shutters and put over half of the garage door at the bottom. Then on the back door of the garage, they propped up an old storm door. Well, the first wind came along, it blowed down. So, as far as instructing them to board it up, it needs to be specified how to board it up, I presume.
Yeah, it needs to be ordered, it sounds like. So far, it sounds like we're trying to, get collaboration from the property owner, and that appears to be failing, because this has been going on for quite a while, because I know that Mr. Lofton's been here before, with, complaints about this property. I'm wondering if it's not truly just been abandoned.
I mean, yeah, if we
I haven't
weren't,
seen anybody over it for 2 years.
if we weren't in contact, well, I say contact, at least we know who the daughter is and where she lives. We have a phone number.
Is the daughter local?
Hanover.
I don't see any taxes being paid the last 2 years.
So was it on the tax, wasn't on the tax sale issue?
Sorry to interrupt. I've just pulled it up to look at it. It has not been assessed since 21. There's no tax bill since 21, I believe.
Right.
So it's
That's strange.
sort of like it's dropped off the radar for assessment and for the treasurer's office to bill. So I'm gonna reach out to both of those offices and
Okay.
just put it on their radar and let them know that these guys will probably follow up with them.
What I'd like to do, Mr. Lofton, is ask Brian and Dewey to discuss this with our council, so that they can take the appropriate action through the next Board of Public Works and Safety meeting to order the abatement of that structure, and if the property owner doesn't do it, then we'll do it.
All right. Well, it sounds like we're moving in the right direction.
We're moving it right, and that's, I want to also thank you for being here, because, you're demonstrating the impact that the neglect by an owner, and this was probably an unusual circumstance, because the property owner and then the power of attorney of his estate both passed away, and that probably left it kind of in limbo or legal limbo in many instances. But you're a perfect example of the fact that nobody wants to live next door to properties that aren't maintained. It's bad policy for a community to allow it, but it's really difficult sometimes to get the property owner's proper level of engagement to get it done. We've got some great success stories, and there are still many, many structures like what you're describing here that need a lot of help and push to get them over the line. And, abating it is one thing, but what we all really want, we want someone to own that property that's going to care for it. Nobody wants to live next door to a boarded up, abandoned building either. So we'll have to take it in sequence, Mr. Lofton, but let's start there, and Dewey, if I could ask for, and Brian, a report at the next Board of Public Works meeting, which will be on October the 21st.
Yes.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to add too,
Yes.
when I had contact with Ruth, their daughter, I had several people ask me about what was going on with the property, and they was interested in buying it. And I would give them her phone number. And then they'd come back and said, nope, she ain't gonna sell it. She won't sell it. Because apparently, through these guys, found out she don't own it.
Yeah.
But,
She may not be able to sell it.
well, you was talking about
Yeah.
the abatement,
Yeah,
the cost of the abatement.
yes.
The neighbor behind them on Mauser Street wanted to buy it and extend his property, built so he could build him a garage, and she wouldn't sell it. He offered her, I would say, at least $30,000 more than what that house was worth. So, if you have to pay for the abatement, looks to me like you could sell it. I mean, somebody's gonna want that property. Now, whether they demo it, or try to fix it up, or whatever, I think something needs to be done with it.
Well, it'll be a trigger because if we have to do the abatement and pay for it, it becomes due on their next tax bill.
All right,
And then there's a whole process there, but we could be, I mean,
well, I was
Some of
just
these- some of these
suggesting-
things-
I'm gonna dump this in
Yeah.
your lap.
some of these
See where
actions,
you go with it.
some of these actions take years to complete. As demonstrated earlier with Dewey's presentation, we've been working on some of these other cases for 2.5 years.
All right.
But we'll keep at it, Mr. Lofton.
All right. My other question was, your trash man's here. On these new trash cans, can I talk to him directly, or should I
Well,
talk to you?
please direct your questions to the board,
Okay.
and if Chris needs to respond, we'll have him come up.
On your new trash cans,
Yes, sir.
when you put them out to the street, I understand from one of your secretaries when I pulled up, because I asked about the warranty on them. Now specifically, the warranty says it's just the manufacturer guaranteeing his defective workmanship or whatever. Any misuse to these cans are not covered, correct? According to the warranty?
You may be asking me a question I do not know the answer to, so we'll direct someone that does. And if we
Okay.
don't have the answer,
Well-
we'll get you the answer.
What I'm saying, last week was the first time that the trash cans have been picked up. And instead of using the wheels to transport them to the truck, they're dragging the trash cans to the truck.
The city workers are dragging
Yes.
the containers to the truck,
Correct.
rather than on the wheel side.
Well, I've got my old trash cans, got holes in the bottom of them from them doing the same thing, even though they had wheels on them.
Yep.
And I put the handle to the side of the street.
Yep,
Where
just
they
like
could
what we
grab a
asked,
hold of
right.
it, direct it
Right.
over. That ain't the way it's working. They're dragging it.
Okay.
So if the bottom gets wore out, am I gonna have to buy that new trash can, or?
Well,
is the
I'm
city-
hoping that since you brought this to our attention, we can correct that right now, and we'll use the wheels. Because,
Good idea, that's what we.
you know, the goal, right, is also make this, more safe for our workers.
Right,
And that's why we're investing so many hundreds of thousands of dollars in this initiative.
well,
So
that's
that
why
this
I'm at.
weight can be wheeled over and tipped in rather than, the manual work that is required.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yes, absolutely. Ask for your patience, and if you see that problem recurring, please let us know too, because we want to correct that.
All right. The other thing I wanted to ask about is, street parking. I've had a couple of instances on Mauser and on, Highland Drive specifically. Last week, I'd went over to the drugstore and come off of, Craigmount, turned onto Highland Drive, and of course, the garbage truck was picking up trash. No problem. I'll wait for them, because there's cars parked on both sides. But here's what happened. When I got about half a block from, Ross Street, a school bus turned onto Highland, and followed by a large pickup truck. So, here you got the garbage truck and the school bus and another truck parked behind them. They sat there for about 10 to 15 minutes trying to figure out who was gonna back up. I thought, boy, it's a good thing there ain't an ambulance coming down through.
Yeah.
So now who has the right of way, the trash truck or the school bus? Because they can't, there's cars parked on both sides.
Well, I think your original question was, is parking on the street allowed? that
Well-
would obstruct the flow of traffic, and the answer to
They're
that
on
is no.
Highland.
Yeah. It's,
Most of them houses have driveways.
right.
They're not parked in the driveway, they park on the street,
Yeah.
okay? Why aren't they made to use their driveway? I mean, I can understand if they have company come over.
Yep.
They park on the street, whatever. But that should be not an everyday occurrence. The other place was on, Mauser at the corner of Craigmont. There's an apartment complex there. Those people do not have a parking lot to park in, so I understand why they're parking on the street. And I talked to Trent Smith, one of your officers, about this, and he said, well, he said there's a lot of places around town like that where they're parked up. Because the instance I had, I was pulling a 24-foot trailer down through there, and of course there's only room for one vehicle, and a guy come off of Craigmont, turned in there, and he seen I had the trailer, so he backed up onto Craigmont to let me come on through, which I appreciate. You know, it's kind of hard backing up a 24-foot trailer. But when I was talking to Trent, I said, the people on the apartment side of the street actually park partially up on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we can write them tickets for that because they're parked on the sidewalk. I said, yeah, but I said, they're trying to leave a driving lane. Whereas on the other side of the street, they just take up the street, park next to the curb. And that's getting to be an everyday occurrence also. Now, how best would we address that?
Well, I can tell you what, the best way that we're addressing that problem is we just recently embarked on a new effort to update our zoning and subdivision ordinances that would take care of that development from the very, very beginning. And Madison, just like many, many other communities, was developed over time with different practices. And what you're just describing, Mr. Lofton, are uses that bring a lot of people into a neighborhood that's probably different than what was originally intended when that ordinance, or I'm sorry, when the zoning and the subdivision ordinances were approved, and then how many people are populating spaces now. So we've got these encroaching uses. It's hard to go backwards and now say apartment complex, you need off-street parking because that wasn't required up front like it is now. So we have to kind of just live with those and look at it from a safety perspective, and ask those homeowners to park in their parking spaces, not obstruct the sidewalks, and keep the streets free and clear. It's just easier said than done.
Right.
Because of so many people now in uses where the zoning was very different, 50 to 60 years ago when that structure was built.
That's what Trent and I was
So
talking
going
about.
forward, we're gonna be dealing with that, and we have been even with the 2015 or 16 zoning ordinance. We're very, in fact, the president of our zoning board happens to be here, Board of Zoning Appeals. We're always looking at what is the impact of a property on the area when they're doing a development. And
Right.
parking is one of the number one things that gets addressed. But it's hard to go backwards.
I
And,
understand.
we've got more people living in a three-bedroom home that used to have one car and a one-car driveway. Now they've
Right.
got two cars and they have to park on the street.
All right.
There are a lot of cases,
But not obstructing sidewalks is really important too.
a lot of cases, but if they have kids, they've got maybe 3 or 4 vehicles,
Right.
and there's not room in a
That's
parking
what's
lot,
happening. I'm not thinking
parking.
that was apartments.
We just
Yeah.
have
That
to
used
be
that.
patient and work around it like what you did. And unfortunately, there isn't, in many instances, not a legal solution to it because what's the other option? Where are they gonna park? But being considerate and not blocking the sidewalk is a really important one. And then on your question about whether the bus or the truck, they both have to just meet and say, let me back up and let the bus come through, unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought I'd hit on those things, because like that apartment complex, like you said, it's been there for
Yeah.
years. So, but like you said, well, the families get in there, and instead of having one vehicle, they got 2 or 3
Yeah.
vehicles. So there's
A lot
approximately
more
a
density.
block
Right.
Approximately a block there that both sides of the streets are on.
Back in the fifties, when those subdivisions were built, people only had one vehicle.
Right.
And, I mean, their high school kids didn't own vehicles to drive to school, So we've evolved over time where now the husband, the wife, all the kids that are driving age have
Right.
vehicles. And,
Well, I
we
guess-
have the same problem downtown with on-street parking and residential. You can go in certain areas of town and trying to find a parking spot they're at a premium in residential areas.
Well, like I was talking to Trent, I said, those people over there on them apartments, I said, they're trying to.
Right.
But like you said, they're against the traffic parking laws.
Right.
So I said, but I don't feel, common sense tells me, don't give them people a ticket.
Right.
Right.
You're right. I think that is common. It's practical. It's practical. Let's try to make everybody be safe, but we've got to, deal with the growth of our community and just pragmatically and fairly.
Right. I'm not unreasonable.
Yeah.
I'm just-
No, you're not.
Just trying to figure out a solution.
Any other remarks today, Mr. Olafson?
No,
I
that's
appreciate
it.
all your
No.
feedback, and it sounds like the most important thing is getting some traction on that 307 Hendricks property.
Yep.
And continue to let us,
Yes.
keep us informed, let us know what's going on. We'll continue with Dewey and
Well,
and
neighbors,
Brian
they
and-
keep coming and asking me,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
what's being done? Why don't you show up?
Well, so we've asked them to come back here and give us an update in 2 weeks at our next meeting on October 21st, and they should have a plan by then, because this is something it's one of those properties that's been on the list for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
You basically, it's a slow approach in many instances.
if you find out any information, like ownership or
Right.
contact, be sure to let them know, so,
All right, thank you.
make their job
Thank you, Mr.
easier,
Lofton.
so.
I'll move quickly through the mayor's comments since my entire audience is gone. But there are two things I wanted to bring up. One, relative to the trash containers. Here's why I would appeal to the community. Call if you need assistance. This was a major logistical feat. It's gone very smoothly. But we need your eyes and ears if there's, a container size in particular that you're having difficulty with. Please don't alter the condition or deface the container with spray painting your address on it. There is a serial number that's tied to that container, which is tied to your address. This is as much of a safety and efficiency exercise as it is beautification. So please do not spray paint your container. I ask you to please take your containers off the sidewalk. I see many containers that have been deployed that are still sitting on the sidewalk in front of your residence or place of business. We do have an ordinance that deals with that, and that is your containers should only be out in front of your property after, I believe, 6 p.m. the night before your trash is to be collected. Your containers should not permanently reside on the sidewalk, and if you have a new container, please move it to the trash collection point. And then, secondly, all the trash should be inside the container. I've already noticed where trash was sitting on top of the new container. The goal here is safety. Our sanitation, our solid waste workers will not be manually carrying your trash. It's not safe. We do not want another visit to the hospital for a variety of reasons. So all trash should be inside the container, which is why you were offered 3 container sizes to help you manage your household consumption and disposal of trash and then your recyclables. We will be deploying, I believe, stickers still to those who are using their own containers that were already trash tipper compatible. So we're continuing to phase this in. All the wrinkles will be smoothed out over time, but those are some things that we need help from the community on. I do want to mention too that in conjunction with the update we received for this being the Code Enforcement Appreciation Month, is last weekend, there was the Tri-Kappa tour. And I believe there were probably around 6 properties on the tour. My wife and I visited every single property, and I was amazed at how much the housing investment in our community has been elevated, and particularly the significant investment that these property owners have gone to preserve those historic structures. Many of them were formerly on our list as unsafe and dilapidated. And these structures were on Walnut Street, on Main Street, First Street, Second Street, Broadway Street. They were all clustered so that the tour would be efficient, but it was not lost on me that these were once properties that have a different destination than what they have now, which is very beautiful, occupied, tax-paying housing that's supporting the neighborhood and the local preservation and the local economy. So I want to thank Tri-Kappa and all those property owners for the investment that they've made. It was absolutely, in my opinion, a stunning tour and representation of the possibilities of what we can do when we have a robust preservation effort, as well as collaboration between the city and the property owners to accomplish this. So if you get a chance, go online, look at some of the pictures. I'm sure a lot were posted, but it was just amazing. Lastly, I'll mention that we have a council meeting tonight here in council chambers. It does begin at 6 o'clock. And I also want to thank streets, utilities, police, all the work that they've done to help us host these literally thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people over the last few weeks. None of that happens by accident. I can tell you, we're in here noodling away with the planning aspect of it to make sure that people have a great time when they get to Madison, and that those who live here and those who are visiting here all can enjoy Madison at its best and do it safely. I'll pause there, turn it over to the other board members. Got anything to add?
Don't forget the Soup Stew Chili and Brew coming up Saturday.
Woo! Yeah, another big event.
Another big one, so yeah.
Only time of year we close down Main Street.
And then a new addition to, instead of the Halloween, it's all gonna be become a fall festival.
Harvest
on
Fall
Vaughn-
Festival.
Vaughn Drive this year, so that should be interesting.
We've had the grocery store in operation now. That's going well. We've got the ribbon cutting or groundbreaking for the apartments soon. And then also, I believe we're having the ribbon cutting for the opening of the Ohio River Legacy Park on November the 1st.
Is there a train associated with the fall festival? I think there is. I've applied for that position
There-
3 times. I haven't received.
There is a,
You can check with the people that you know about.
there's the hayride.
No,
Is that what you're
no,
referring to?
I want the train ride. I think there's a
There's
train.
a train ride? That'd be awesome.
I will be the driver.
I know the Headless Horseman's gonna be making another visit in Madison. Well, I want to thank everybody again. We'll move to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second David's motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks everyone for being here. See what happens when 3 weeks go by instead of the normal 2 weeks?